before we start discussing your journey, could you please introduce yourself and share a little about your work, your career, and what you are currently doing?
Well, my whole story starts when I was very young, at age 15. I'm putting the glasses at all this problem with my radiation from giving my eyesight a break. And then I became the youngest person in the world to win junior and senior Ironman. Now, the Ironman, our one, has been going since the 1920s. It's not the cycling, running, and swimming. It's swimming, paddling, paddleboard, and running. So that's the Ironman, surf life-saving Ironman. So I won that, first person in the world in 1976 at age 15 to win the junior and the senior. And then 1 month later, Grant Kenny from Australia also did it. So my big rivalry was against Grant Kenny to try and race against him. And because of apartheid, I couldn't race against Grant Kenny. So then a big race in Hawaii, Grant Kenny had won it 4 years in a row, the World Surfski Championships in Hawaii, between the islands of Molokai and Oahu, 52 kilometers. So he'd won it 4 years in a row. And eventually I could race him in 1983. And I managed to beat him and win 7 of those in a row. And then I was the captain of the South African Olympic team in 92, and then came back at age 49 in 2012, and I won and lost a few Molokais to win my 12th Molokai at the age of 49, and beating Olympic gold medalist from Barcelona 1992, Clint Robinson, another Australian. So that's sort of my big claim to fame. And then obviously I'm a serial entrepreneur. So I started Epic Kayaks. I started a big financial firm. I was one of the founders of a company called Citadel in South Africa, which has got like 400 billion under management rands. So I started that company, and then I started Epic Kayaks. And I'm always starting things. And even on my deathbed, I'm still starting it. I've started Chalupsky surf skis and kayaks and paddles. But in 2019, on the 25th of November, is when my life sort of changed, because that's when I got the call that everybody wants to avoid, to say, Oscar, the tumor on your spine, that's cancerous, that's a secondary cancer, and we think you've got 6 months to live. And the reason why I remember the 25th of November 2019 is the 26th of November was my wife's 60th birthday. So we were going to celebrate her 60th, but we were celebrating that I had a incurable cancer, and we found out it is multiple myeloma, an incurable cancer of the what do you call it, bone marrow cancer. So once I had that diagnosis, I was in Portugal, and then I came back to South Africa, and then I've been fighting ever since. In the last 2 years, they've given me 3 days and a few days, and both times I brought the priest in to say, give me my last rites. But I defied everything, and I keep on trying to defy it. It has been tough, when you've got 3 days to go and you think, what the hell, how does this happen? That it comes on you so quick. But again, I never gave up on living. So, and then again, you've got to do a lot of alternative things. I've never been off chemo. I've always been on chemo since 2019. And there's the things that I really do believe in, is like fasting. My longest fast is 21 days. And then hyperbaric chamber, I really like that. And then again, I do a lot of alternative medicines, but you never know which one works.
You were told that you had cancer and possibly 6 months to live. How did that sentence affect you in the moment?
Well, it was interesting that it affects different people a different way. My wife cried a lot. She just didn't stop, and she didn't want to have the party. I'd organized a special party where I cried for about a minute and then stopped and said, oh, I'm 56, and what I've done in my 56 years, most people don't do in 2 or 3 lifetimes. So I felt satisfied. So that's the difference, is what you feel. And then again, you're never dead till you in basically in your coffin. So you keep fighting till that happens.
And also, in one of the interviews, you said that one of the first questions was, when can I start pedaling again? When was pedaling the first thing on your mind?
Well, I've been so active. My whole life has been paddling since I was very young. So, and I was still competing. I mean, to give you an example, at age 58, I never forget, I raced in Brazil, a race of 120 kilometers over 4 days. And I won that race in Brazil at age 58 with chemo, with all that. And the next guy who came second was 28, So it gives you a lot of satisfaction when you're beating people 30 years younger than you. Shows you what your mind can do to overcome what your body's shortfall is, and you have to be a bit clever. That's the whole thing, is to think differently to win. You can't win because I can't even do one pull-up. These kids that I'm racing and can do 100 pull-ups on a set, so it's very different.
When I first asked you about your journey, you had a athlete mindset from a young age. So did concert feel like another race, or was it completely different from any challenge you had faced before?
I think it's, I think your whole life, once you become a top athlete at a young age, becomes a race, no matter what you think it isn't, but it still is a race. I mean, whether it's at school, I was trying to be my best. And then the same thing happened, obviously, with work, trying to be my best. And everything I do is to try and be the best. And that's what racing brings out of you. So I'm not one of those people that go to a race just to attend. I go to races to win medals. And now I go to a big lesson in Barcelona where I got no medals and I came nowhere. So that happens. So then you've got to change, and that's the very clever thing, is that in adversity, there's always opportunity. But so many people in adversity fall down in a heap and they blame lots of people. Where I think when you have a failure, you've got to learn from the failures.
You mentioned that you became uncertain regarding the alternative medicine, but you have gone through chemotherapy, stem cell transplant, different drugs, fasting, as you mentioned, alternative approaches. How do you make decisions when the options are uncertain?
Well, the first thing is, and I always tell us, that most people are getting older. But funny enough, you can get wiser. And being wise is about reading books and reading things. So I learned about Shackleton, Ernest Shackleton. He lived on the ice for 1.5 years with no fruit and vegetables. So I can tell you right now, there's no way you can survive without fruit and vegetable. Because if he had he had no fruit and vegetable, he survived for 1.5 years. If he was a vegan, or he wouldn't have survived. It's just plain and simple. He wouldn't. There's nothing there, so he would have just starved to death. But then none of them starved to death, and that taught me that how long you can go without food and things like that. And then so you read that book, and not even though it's not a medical book and it's nothing to do with health and nutrition, you can take those things out of it, and that's what I've done my whole life, is read up about people that have accomplished things that are out of this world, and use that in my fight. So I knew, and I read up about Walter Longo, long ago, about cancer, how they fought it with ketogenic diets and sometimes carnivorous diets. But the bottom line is, I know, and it's been proven, cancer is metabolic. It loves food. So if you starve it of food, you just don't want to kill yourself before you kill the cancer. So when they gave me no time, I fasted for 21 days, and I had every single drug. I had the Red Devil, I had the Pace, I had everything. Nothing worked. But when I fasted, my number went from 1,140 to 111. That's multiple myeloma kappa light chains. So I can tell you that works. And then another thing that cancer hates is hyperbaric chamber oxygen. So oxygen, which will definitely make it hates cancer hates oxygen. So that you feed it with oxygen, it's got to kill it. So those things help. And then you have so many people talking about ivermectin and fenbendazole. So you just take it. There's no downsides. So just take it. And then again, it's one of those things. I'm taking at least 30 pills every morning. I don't even know what they're for. My wife I research the ones that I want to, and then she researches the other, and then she gets them. And again, you just take them and you think, okay, maybe it'll work. But I know, if I give any advice to anybody, I mean, cancer, I always say fasting is number one, and then oxygen therapy can be number two.
In relation to your concise clarification, what does good care mean when cure is no longer possible?
Yeah, you see, so and I have so many people that actually put their faith in me and say, okay, I think the doctor's given up, like pancreatic cancer, all these cancers, the doctors have given up. So that's good. The doctors have given up. So all that happens is that I tell them, okay, they've given up on you. I haven't given up. Just try fasting. And I've had some success where people have been given 2 or 3 days in the last 6 or 7 weeks just by fasting, So that is the difference between me. I just say, listen, and again, I'm not a doctor. All I do is I've done my research and all I want to do is help people. So that's why people say, oh, you're posting every single day about your cancer journey. And I say, yeah, it's the only way, in a small way I can help. And I get so many messages back every day to say, oh, you helped me get out of this situation, whether it's cancer, depression, anything, because they can see what I'm going through is pretty tough. I mean, when you're lying in bed and you can't get up and you're having cancer, big tumors and having radiation, it's tough. But if you've got a strong mind, you can overcome it.
If you could ask doctors to understand one thing about cancer patients, what would it be?
Yeah, you see, that is such a tough question. Is that the biggest problem is nobody makes money if you fast. So fasting to me is the ultimate cure for most things. You know, and it's tough. I can understand that doctors get told, no, no, you must give this and this drug, and you must do this and this drug, because that's part of the protocol. Fasting's never part of the protocol because nobody makes money out of fasting. I mean, when you do a long fast, there's no washing dishes, there's no restaurants, there's no nothing, and you even save on toilet paper, because you don't go to the toilet when you're fasting for such a long time. So it's something that's out there, and again, when you're on your last legs, you try everything, and that's what I tried, and it worked, and it keeps on working. So when they said no, no, the radiation wasn't working after 10 radiations, I just started fasting and doing a hyperbaric chamber, and again, I think my skin's getting better, and then I started Keytruda. Yes, that's why I always say, get know your Western medicines and know your Western medicines and do your alternatives, and just study yourself. It is tough because there's so many different protocols out there. One person says, oh, you must eat avos. The next person says, you mustn't eat avos, avocado pears. So it's a tough gig out there to know what is right and what is wrong. And I can really appreciate it, but it's up to you to educate yourself to eventually know what is good and bad.
You spoke that you gained breadth of knowledge through books, and also patient to patient knowledge is one of the factors that can lead us to understand how to live a meaningful life in the face of death and decay. How important is patient to patient knowledge, Oscar?
I think it's very important. I mean, that's why I was very different to most patients, cancer sufferers. I told everybody I had cancer. So, and again, this is the story of every single person out there is trying to help. So I appreciate I get hundreds and thousands of messages because I've got 200,000 followers. So they're sending me messages, and it's all good knowledge, but you've got to basically, you as patients will all give you what they've been through, and you've got to learn from them, but then you got to decipher which is good and which is bad, what has worked and which hasn't worked. And I had so many people I've lost as well. Trying to help them, and it's tough. You try and do everything, and then you just suddenly hear. I mean, the one guy I was speaking to him on the Thursday, and he died, and I told him, hey, but he was starting to go onto my regime, and then the next day he died. So, I mean, that's what can I do, So I talked to him on Thursday, and the Friday he died. And I only got the message. I only got the message like 3 days later. It's so tough because nobody knows who they're speaking to. And then you finally find out, oh, he was my brother. talked highly of you. So it does help. I mean, I think people realize all I'm there is to try and help as many people as I can and learn from other people that are going through the same as me.
What advice would you give to someone who has just lost a beloved one with because of multiple myeloma?
Yeah, I've got a very good friend, Tim Via in Portugal, and we were very close. And his wife got it at such an aggressive multiple myeloma. She only lost 6 months, which is now in this day and age is sort of unheard of. But and the grief is I can't understand. I can't actually comprehend the grief. But I'm different when it comes to that. You know, my mother died when I was 18 years old. Okay, it's happened. There's nothing I can do. All I've got to remember is the good times, and I've got to move on. I don't celebrate she died on this day or anything. I'm not one of those people. Like, just carry on. She was a very big part of my life, but when she's gone, she's out of my life. You know, so that's how I make sure that I am always positive, because that gives you negative. You know, you've got your mother died. That's a negative thing. So if you've got that in your mind all the time, it's just a negative thing. I just remember her being the best mother you can have. Died when I was 18, and I moved on. And it's a tough call to make, but I think that's the way you do. But a lot of people, oh, this is the father, I miss you. Not going to come back. Yes, you can say you miss your mother, but I'd rather move forward and help more people than worry about what things happened in the past. Maybe it's a bit of a callous uh, feeling, but it definitely makes me more positive and say, okay, I'm going to just keep fighting.
So you keep your mother's legacy in your words and actions.
Exactly, exactly. So what she did, I'm doing now, you know, helping. She was one of those people that helped everybody, didn't expect anything, but helped everybody. And I'm trying to do the same thing.
Yes.
But I'm not going to harp on, oh, I miss her and I miss her food and everything. Yes, if it comes up, it comes up in a joyful thing, not in a somber thing, you know?
What makes a life worth living when the body is failing, Oscar?
Well, I mean, at the moment, that's the question that everybody else says, why are you trying to fight so hard? Because you get some people say, what are you fighting so hard for? My sole purpose now is basically educate people how to avoid getting cancer. And then when they get cancer, the more people I can help. Because I mean, when you're fighting cancer or fighting depression, they're all the same. And you need to have somebody that snaps you out of it, you know. And funny enough, I had a farmer here in South Africa. His son was really struggling with depression and everything. And the father gave the book to him, and he snapped out of it. He snapped out of his thing and became a positive person, and now runs a farm, no more depression. And that really helps you. And every day I get a message every single day. Oh, you helped me so much. I've got stage 4. And I get on an airplane, and they recognize me. You won't believe I got stage 4. And now you've made me fight as well because I got children and everything. So I think that gives you even more sort of help to keep helping others.
What matters most to you now, Oscar? More time, less pain, family, purpose, legacy, or something else?
It's funny. I mean, what matters to me is just think about having a good time and making choices. Number one, that benefit the family, and number two, that benefit other people. You know, so like now the weather in Cape Town is cold, so I think, no, I'm going to go to Durban. I can't afford to go there, so I'm going to go to Durban. You know, and then here I'm in this the eye laser clinic in Cape Town, and my eyes are so bad. My eyes so bad. I'm struggling to drive. So it's just like just one of these things that happened to me. You know, they said it's going to happen. I didn't really think it's going to happen, but I'm struggling with this eye, and it's apparently going to deteriorate for another 4 weeks. But you live with these things. You know, you have these problems, and you just keep on going. And when people see that, they realize they can overcome cold or their flu, or because that's what happens. So many people think their issue is so big, and then do even my issue, and then you see people that are quadriplegic and all these problems, So I always think that I'm not so badly off.
That is phenomenal answer. You won around 12 world championships and facing cancer more than once. What does victory mean to you today?
I've nothing's changed. I mean, in fact, when I woke up this morning, I said, I'm going to gym. And my wife said, what? She gave me a hug and said, what are you doing going to gym? What are you doing this for? I said, no, I want to beat everybody with my cancer, she can't believe it that my mind hasn't changed. My body is obviously buggered, but my mind is strong to try and be the best I can. And to be the best you can, you've got to make sacrifices, got to eat right, train hard, and see what I can do. I've got the World Championships in October. I've got a race in China in August. And then I've got a race in Brazil in September, and I want to go there. I mean, I didn't think I was going to be there. So this is just borrowed time. And when you're on borrowed time, you got to use it really well. I mean, when it was 3 days, my wife and my brother were sitting there, and the doctor said, how long we asked, well, how long have I got? So 3 days. Can you imagine getting 3 days? And I said, no way. I don't believe you. And I didn't. And here I am. That's 2 years ago.
Can you give us a concise overview of your book, No Retreat, No Surrender, for viewers?
Well, I think the most important thing, I didn't write the book to tell everybody how good I was at sport. This book is there for people to read and learn and put into practice, because you need this in life. I mean, in life you go through bad patches. What do? Go to bad patches? If you go through such a bad patch, you can commit suicide. But if you've got a book that you can relate to, and that's the whole thing of that book is, takes you from kids. So that's why I've got kids at 10 years old reading this book. And I've got a very good friend, Jonathan Baird, who's one of the wealthiest people in the world, and the kindest philanthropist and everything like that. He said, "Hey, this book should be a set book for kids to realize that in adversity you can always come out of it." And that's what my book's about, is helping people chapter by chapter going through their life, because I'm a normal person. This is very different to Roger Federer or Nadal or Michael Phelps. I am so normal because never in my life was I a professional athlete. So I had to do like you have to do. If you want to train, you wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, you run and swim, and then you go to work all day. And then you got your children and your family, and that's the whole thing. So I bring in that my wife and I have been together for 43 years, and in 8 days' time or 7 days' time, we celebrate 38 years of marriage. So pretty good. People don't do that. People don't. And again, in the book, you learn about that. So you're learning about how to keep a relationship together, how to make sure you balance your life between family, work, health. Those are the most important things in life. And if you do too much work, family suffers. Too much exercise, something suffers. So, and it changes all the time. The balance is fluid. When you're young and you're doing nothing, you haven't got children, you don't have to worry, you can travel. When you got children, you got to be there for the children to help them and nurture them. And then when the children are out of your hair, then you can travel again. So it just changes all the time. But the balance is always going to be there. Otherwise, something will happen. And that's what I try to put in the book. That's why it's no retreat, no surrender. And after every chapter, there's a lesson for you to take away. So that's why a lot of people read it 2 or 3 times, put post-it notes. Okay, I'm going to use this, because as I said, I'm normal, meaning that I wasn't a professional sportsman. So anybody could be like me if they had the determination and the will. So, and that's what I believe. Everybody's got an Oscar in them.
I hope that everyone who read your book had influenced positively and is implying the theoretical frameworks discussed in your book in their daily life.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what I want. I mean, and I get a lot of feedback from people when they start reading, they don't realize how much is there. and how much they didn't know and how much they learned about themselves. And that's, I think, is important. I think, as I say, everybody is there to do better, and this just helps them, give them a guide on how to do it.
What message do you want people to take from your story?
I think the words are very apt. No retreat, no surrender. Never give up until somebody's nailing the coffin closed. So no matter how faint the life is, just keep fighting till the bitter end.